Greetings, it's Will from stormthecastle.com, and you are watching the Cardboard DaVinci YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. And this is a quick video, a short but very useful video if you like making projects and you want to work more with cardboard. This is how to effectively paint cardboard and make it look as best you can make it look. And there's a few things that you need to know, and I'll point these things out to you, but the most important thing to think about when it comes to cardboard is that it's a structure of 3 different sheets of craft paper, that brown paper, that is not glued together. It's actually starched together. There's a vegetable starch that holds it all together. And this is the reason why cardboard is recyclable, because that vegetable starch can be dissolved in water and the paper can be recycled. But that means that water very significantly affects the cardboard. So when you're painting cardboard, I do have some tips for you, and I actually ran some experiments here so you could actually see what's going on. The most important thing is to try to keep the paint as dry as possible. And that's a little bit of a funny statement, I guess. How do you keep paint dry? But I'll show you. Just like this, when it comes straight out of the tube or the can or the container, don't add any water to it. And you can even brush some of it off so it isn't so wet. Because what happens is the wetness will loosen the fibers in the cardboard. The paper is made of fibers, and those fibers will expand, and that will cause warping in the cardboard and distorted shapes and wrinkling, and even if it's wet enough, it actually can unglue or unstarch the stack of 3. So keep the paint dry and even, right? But I also ran some experiments here, and I'll show you some of that, is just so you can actually see. But I also have another tip for you that's kind of important that will help to make your cardboard painting look even better. On this second one here, I added water so we could, you can see how it goes. And of course the water is going to make the colors not as bright. But that's okay. The point here is that it's very watery. And then I made a third one. And this is another important tip, is even when you paint it dry, the paper's going to expand somewhat, and it's going to cause the cardboard to warp or to distort somewhat. Not as much as if it was wet. So what you can do about that is you can paint both sides of the cardboard. Even if one side isn't being seen, in your final project, you can still paint that back side. So what happens is the warping negates itself. So you've got a warp on one side and then a warp on the other side that's opposite. They will cancel each other out and cause very little warping. And that's what I'm doing here in this third piece. All right, I painted one side, and I'm going to flip this over and paint the other side. And then we come back to it in actually a couple of days, and I'll show you how much warpage we get out of these. So here we go. Now it's a couple of days later, and that paint is fully dried, and we'll take a look at the warpage. The dry paint is on the left. The wet paint is the most curved. Little bit of curve there with the dry paint, and with the painted on both sides, very little warpage. See that? Look at that. So there's a good example to show you, and I got more tips for you. Hang in there. Thanks for sticking with me this long, but I got more tips for you here. You're going to find it's going to help you with your making cardboard projects. So earlier in the video, I mentioned about how having the paint dry, which is, a little bit of an irony, but one of the most important things you should do and remember to do is to shake the paint really, really well. Because over time, paint will settle, and when you squeeze it out, the wet, watery part comes out first. But if you shake it up really, really well, get it mixed up well, you'll get a drier paint, if that makes any sense. It'll be much, much better for your project. So a couple more tips here. Think about how you use glue and hot glue. It can affect how the project looks when you paint it, because painting over glue or hot glue is a lot different than painting over just a regular old cardboard. And sometimes it can show through a lot. So try to keep the glue to just where the joints are and not get any on the surface. But if you keep it really light, like this PVA glue, this white glue, kind of got covered pretty good with the paint, so I'm happy about that. But large amounts of thick glue can look kind of a little, not so good. And particularly hot glue, when you paint over it, that hot glue shows a lot. I'll show you here. We'll take a look. And actually, if we can DaVinci this, this is a great way to actually add decorations to your project. With hot glue, you can add all kinds of ornaments and decorations and even make pictures. And you may be aware that hot glue actually, you can get hot glue sticks in different colors. Glitter, gold, silver, white, just about every color is available in hot glue. So once your project is painted, you could use colored hot glues to add decorations to the project. I should do a video on that. Well, anyway, let me give you another tip here. If you have Mod Podge, or you can get Mod Podge, I recommend it because it makes a big difference in how your project will look. It can be used as a glue. It can also be used as but it's mostly used as a sealant, a protectorant, and it really brings out the vibrant colors in your cardboard project. And notice the difference in how the direction that you spread it in does make a difference. See, the corrugation showed if you brush it one way, and they don't show if you brush it the other way. So keep that in mind. And now this is it dry. This is like a half an hour later. It's all nice and dry. And look how shiny and beautiful that is with the Mod Podge. And Mod Podge comes in a bunch of different types. There's a flat, and there's a gloss and a semi-gloss. This here I used as a gloss. It gives that beautiful gloss glow. But you saw that the paint is exactly the same, but the Mod Podge really brings out the color. See, Mod Podge gloss. It's a little expensive. So one final tip I have for you here is, if you're making a larger cardboard project and you're worried about the paint, you want the paint to do well and not, affect the cardboard too much, double up on the cardboard like this and alternate the corrugations. On one piece they go left to right, and the other piece they go up to down, and that makes a really big difference. It will hold the paint really well without warping. And that's what I did for many of the pieces here in the cardboard dollhouse. So let me review the 7 tips. Shake the paint very well. Try to keep the paint dry. Paint both sides of the cardboard, even if one side isn't showing. Be sparing with the glue because that will affect your painting. Double up large pieces and use Mod Podge for shine, brightness, and protection. Thank you. So tomorrow I've got another little quick cardboard tutorial I'm going to give you on how to make beautiful crisp edges. And I have a couple of different techniques for doing this that you're going to find really kind of interesting. So that'll be tomorrow. So Saturday. I'll do that now. And look how beautiful that looks. That's actually 2 different pieces that have been put together. Thank you.